I never expected that one shocking night would turn my life upside down. The air was electric, crackling with an intensity that felt almost alive. I stood there, heart racing, surrounded by shadows that danced in the moonlight. My palms were clammy, my breath quick. This was not a typical Friday night. I was supposed to be at home, snuggled on the couch, waiting for Dan to come over. We had planned a quiet evening, just the two of us. But there I was, standing in front of the abandoned factory on the edge of town, the weight of the world on my shoulders. Moonlight spilled through shattered windows, illuminating the remnants of something long forgotten. The chilling wind howled, and I could hear its whispers urging me to turn back. But what pulled me forward was the thrill of the unknown, the mystery of the place. There were rumors, strange lights, eerie sounds, and ghostly figures. My curiosity pushed me deeper, the thrill wrapping around me like a warm blanket. As I stepped inside, the air grew thicker. Dust motes floated in the light, and the scent of rust and dampness filled my lungs. I shivered, not just from the cold but from an inexplicable feeling that I wasn't alone. My heart pounded louder with each creak of the floorboards beneath me. Shadows merged and twisted at the edges of my vision. I pressed my back against a wall, my fingers trembling on the rough surface. This was both terrifying and exhilarating. Suddenly, the faint sound of laughter echoed off the walls. I froze, my chest tightening. It was too dark to see anything clearly, but I could feel a presence. I wasn't prepared for this. The laughter grew louder, mixed with muffled voices. Who else was here? I wanted to call out, to demand answers, but fear wrapped around my throat like a vice, choking the words before they could escape. Then, from the corner of my eye, I spotted a flicker of movement. I turned, heart pounding, eyes wide. A figure darted in the shadows, just out of reach. Panic washed over me. My instincts screamed to run, but my feet felt glued to the spot. Was I truly seeing things, or had the stories been real? Every nerve in my body was on high alert. The world outside felt miles away, the comforting sounds of Dawn laugh, the warmth of his hugs, now replaced by this foreboding emptiness. I wasn't just exploring an old factory, I was diving deep into the depths of fear itself. As I began to back away, I heard a soft murmur right behind me. Cold breath brushed across my skin, and I froze. What was lurking in the shadows? My muscles tensed, every instinct screaming to flee from this nightmare. My heart raced. I couldn't shake the feeling that something monumental was about to unfold. The laughter turned to whispers, dark and urgent, swirling around me like a sinister wind. Nothing made sense anymore. My mind raced, teetering on the brink of panic. Then, out of the darkness, a face emerged. Familiar. Terrifying. My world shattered at that moment. It was someone I thought I knew. "Why are you here?" they asked, and the room spun. I needed answers, but all I had were questions. Why wasn't I running? Why was I still here, in this place where hope flickered like a dying candle? What had I stumbled into? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The face that emerged from the shadows was one I had loved. Jake. Memories rushed to me, crashing like waves against the shore. The soft curves of his smile, the way his laughter could light up a room, and the late-night talks that wove the fabric of our connection. Yet, all of that now felt like ash in my mouth. He was supposed to be a memory, a chapter closed. The painful gashes he left behind still ached in my heart. "Why are you here?" he repeated, his tone layered with disbelief and something darker, something that made my skin crawl. "What are you doing here?" I demanded, my voice steadier than I felt. The shadows seemed to claw at my resolve, and fear flickered in my chest. This was not the welcome I anticipated. Jake took a hesitant step forward, the moonlight falling across his face, illuminating the shadows beneath his eyes. He looked different, worn, as if he had been through a storm of his own. "I could ask you the same thing," he said quietly, glancing around as if expecting someone else to emerge from the darkness. "Why are you in this place?" I pressed, fighting the swell of emotions that threatened to overwhelm me. I needed to know why he had come here even after all that had passed between us. A distant sound broke the tension. A heavy thud echoed through the factory, followed by what sounded like hurried footsteps. Jake's gaze darted to the sound, his eyes widening in alarm. "We need to go. Now." "Wait, why should I trust you?" My heart was a drum, pounding relentlessly against my chest. "Because you won't survive if you stay here," he whispered urgently, and for a moment, I could sense the truth in his words. The laughter had turned to something else, a low, sinister murmur that crawled along my skin. I felt it more than I heard it, a palpable weight bearing down on me. Without another word, Jake reached for my wrist and pulled me toward the exit. The raw heat of his fingers ignited something buried deep within me: fear, anger, longing, everything I thought I had buried when he left. But the urgency of the moment chased those thoughts away as we raced through the darkened halls. The factory loomed like a castle of despair, and as we ducked beneath beams and past forgotten machinery, I caught glimpses of the fleeting shadows, as if they could come alive at any second. I could feel Jake's presence beside me, both a comfort and a reminder of my own vulnerability. As we skidded to a stop near a broken window, a flicker of light crossed my vision. I turned, and there, standing in the rubble, was a child. A little girl with threads of untamed curls, her eyes wide and impossibly innocent against the backdrop of decay. "Help me," she whispered, her voice barely rising above the whispers of the factory. Panic shot through me. "She shouldn't be here." "No, we can't. We have to go." I pulled on Jake's arm as the shadows behind her thickened, swirling with malicious intent, but Jake hesitated, his gaze locked on the girl. "We can't leave her," he replied, emotion tightening around his words. "She's trapped here." I shook my head, fear knotting my stomach. "How can we help her? We can't even help ourselves." My voice broke on the last word, the enormity of the situation crashing down on us. Suddenly, there was a loud crash, a sound that echoed through the factory like thunder. A massive door swung open at the far end, silhouetting a figure that stepped into the dim light. "I knew you'd return," they said, their voice cold and mocking. It was someone I recognized, someone who had been entangled in all of it. My heart stuttered as I turned back to Jake. "We have to leave now," I shouted, realizing that whatever this was, it was spiraling into something darker than I had imagined. But as our eyes met in that moment of shared fear and recognition, I felt a bond rekindle amidst the chaos. I desperately wanted to believe we could tackle this together, but the burden of our past pulled me back. Before I could move, the shadows surged toward us, the little girl fading into the darkness as her voice echoed, "Help me." And just like that, the world tilted once again. In a desperate leap, I grabbed Jake's hand, but I felt the pull of something far greater than fear. It was a choice. A choice to confront what had been left unresolved or to run from the remnants of our past. And then, with the air thickening around us, I made my decision. The shadows curled tighter, weaving a net around us, and as I braced for impact, I could feel the weight of the truth crashing down. The revelation that Jake had never really left and that his return might mean facing the ghosts of our shared history. But it was already too late to turn back. We were swept into a maelstrom, the realization of what it meant to be trapped not only by the sinister air surrounding us but by the chains of our past. In that moment, the dark figure stepped forward, revealing a face that twisted familiarity into something unrecognizable. It was Rebecca, her expression a mixture of mockery and something else, perhaps desperation or intrigue. The shadows danced around her, eager to envelop this confrontation. "That I always knew you couldn't stay away," she said, her voice dripping with disdain. "Isn't it poetic, the way life brings us back to where it all began?" Putting distance between Jake and me, I steadied my breaths. The last encounter I had with Rebecca felt like a poison thorn lodged deep in my heart, one I never wanted to revisit. "What do you want, Rebecca?" I managed to choke out, my throat constricting with suppressed fury. She chuckled, a sound devoid of warmth, and waved a hand as if inviting the shadows to listen. "Oh, you know what I want. It's the same thing I've always wanted, the truth. The real story behind why you both left, why you let him go," she said, her eyes flickering with a light I recognized, one that suggested she had power here. I felt Jake's hand tense around mine. The warmth of his touch was a small anchor in this rising storm. "It doesn't matter what she wants," he said, his voice low. "We're done playing your games, Rebecca." Her laughter erupted, cutting through the anxiety like a blade. "Games? My dear Jake, this is no game. This is survival." She stepped closer, and in doing so, reveled in the shadows, as if they were allies, companions in her twisted narrative. "You want to save her?" She gestured to the vanishing girl, her face morphing into a wicked smile. "That's cute. But have you ever thought about saving yourselves first?" Jake's grip tightened around my palm, drawing me closer. "We won't let her suffer," he stated firmly. That a flicker of something akin to sorrow crossed Rebecca's face, but it was gone too quickly to analyze. "Then you must face the truth of your own failures first," she said, and as she spoke, the shadows took on horrific shapes, figurative echoes of the pain buried within me. My heart raced as I recalled the moments with Jake leading to our departure from the lives we once shared. The break had been seismic, a quake that had fractured everything I thought I knew, yet Rebecca's presence thrust me back into that darkness like a shoving force against an open wound. "Stop this," I pleaded, but the weight of my words felt small against the gravity of my emotions. The shadows spiraled around us, forming a protective barrier while also imprisoning us. I felt the weight of eyes, phantom gazes clawing at my sanity. Whispers of past failures flooded my mind the moments I had decided to walk away instead of facing the tempest of my love for Jake. "Why, Celia?" Rebecca's voice came like an unforgiving wind. "Why did you let him slip through your fingers?" "Because it hurt too much to stay," I screamed, the vulnerability erupting, raw and unveiled. "I thought it would be easier to walk away than to face the pain every day. But I didn't know how to say it." The factory vibrated as if echoing my confession, the shadows swirling in response. I turned to Jake, wanting him to see that the wall I had built against my feelings was crumbling. "I thought if I left, I would be saving us both," I said, my throat tightening with tears. "But I was wrong, wasn't I?" "You weren't the only one who hurt," Jake said, finally breaking his silence, his eyes revealing depths of anguish I hadn't seen before. "I was lost without you, too. But we can't fix this if we're trapped in this nightmare." Rebecca leaned in closer, her expression transforming into one of intense intrigue. "It's adorable that you think facing the past will save you. But I may have something more interesting a way to free that little girl. Or are you afraid of what it means to look deep within?" As the shadows thrashed and snapped, I glanced toward the fading figure of the girl, her eyes pleading. I couldn't abandon her. But allowing Rebecca into our hearts risked exposing the raw wounds we both bore. Did we even have a choice? The factory was alive with unrest, and the echoes of my past hung like dark clouds over my mind, creating a storm I was terrified to face. Just as we prepared to act, a single gust of cold wind swept through the room, illuminating a fresh corner of darkness where new shapes emerged. "Celia," Jake murmured, as our eyes met in a desperate understanding. In that moment of clarity, I felt the undeniable truth: battle or run, our destinies were linked, and our greatest fear was barely a heartbeat away. I took a step closer to him, knowing that facing Rebecca and the shadows meant reclaiming not only our past but also the future we had denied ourselves for too long. "Let's do this together," I whispered, but the moment was shattered when a loud crash echoed just outside the broken window, sending a ripple of terror coursing through me. A low growl sounded, monstrous and inhuman. As the shadows lunged toward us, I grasped Jake's hand tighter, uncertainty clawing at my heart. What awaited us on the other side of this cruel game? With hidden truths surfacing and the threat of something sinister looming, our fight had only just begun, and it promised to change everything we thought we knew. The darkness swirled around us, a living entity that pulsed with hostility and dread. Each shadow contained fragments of our fears, visions of broken dreams and contentions that had once seemed insurmountable. Before us, Rebecca's smile widened into a grin that threatened to fracture my tenuous resolve. "Fear doesn't become you, Celia," she taunted, stepping back slightly to let the shadows dance around Jake and me. "But it does create fascinating responses. Let's see if you're brave enough to confront your nightmares together." Jake squeezed my hand as if it were the only thing anchoring us to reality. "Celia," he said softly, his voice barely above a whisper, "this is more than just Rebecca. It's everything we've been running from." I remembered the promises we made to each other, the future we couldn't seem to grasp. My heart ached, the memories stirring like ghosts haunting a forgotten realm, desperate to be acknowledged. What if she's right? What if there's a truth so ugly we're not ready to bear it? I half laughed, a bitter sound that seemed to echo back at me, a reminder that I was speaking to nobody but myself. "That I am right here," he replied, forcefully yet tenderly, his grip tightening momentarily. "We're in this together. Whatever's waiting for us, we will face it. We have to." Rebecca took a step back, allowing a dark, swirling vortex to rise in her wake. "Together, you say? How lovely. But let's see how well you navigate the labyrinth of those memories on your own. For every step you take into the light, the shadows will take double back into the dark, Celia." The cry cut through the atmosphere like a knife. The voice from the past was unmistakable, my mother's, laced with urgency, but it twisted and coiled through my mind as the shadows warped her image into something unrecognizable. "No, stop!" I shouted, feeling the raw ache of helplessness clawing through me. "You can't do this. You can't keep dragging our past up like this." But the shadows had already morphed. Shapes emerged, frozen in time, my childhood fears presented before me, empty home, the unanswered messages, the love I didn't know how to give. I staggered back, blinking as memories cascaded like liquid through the fractures. "Do you see it now, Celia?" Rebecca pressed, her voice layered over the cacophony of voices and images flooding my mind. "You were never alone in this mess." That I clenched my jaw, and for the first time, I felt anger rising up like an uncontrollable tide. But I tried to be strong. My voice shattered against the weight of the shadows, echoing through the room. I thought I was doing the right thing by stepping away. I wanted to protect what? The illusion that you could leave it all behind? Rebecca's laughter was mocking, echoing harshly around us. "You never protected anyone, least of all yourself." The vortex intensified, and I saw flashes of Jake's tortured face pulled into the undertow, his pain intertwining with my own. "Celia!" he cried out, fear-stricken as the ground trembled underfoot. Would the truth consume us both? No. I screamed, dragging the last vestiges of my resolve from the depths. "I won't let you hurt him anymore." Pivoting toward the looming vortex, I felt the weight of my memories solidifying into determination. Pushing through, I remembered Jake's strength. "We're not afraid of the truth," I declared, feeling my pulse quicken. "We faced the storm by choosing love, and that choice is not a weakness but a testament. We can't let the dark define us." As if hearing my call, the shadows momentarily hesitated. For a heartbeat, the air electrified with a flicker of uncertainty, and the seal of darkness dissipated for just enough time for hope to spark within me. There, within the space of despair, arose a glimmering possibility, a way forward, a chance to confront our demons rather than run. "Celia, stay close to me," Jake urged, but even as his words resonated with urgency, something else began to emerge around us. A burst of golden light invaded the shadows, illuminating the grotesque shapes and causing them to writhe in pain. Who was standing against them? As I turned to glimpse the source of the light, I blinked in disbelief. A figure appeared, a woman enveloped in warmth, her face radiating with peace and strength. "You've forgotten," she spoke softly. "Your roles need not be defined by the past but forged anew through understanding." With every word she spoke, the shadows shrank back, their darkness thwarted by the strength of her presence. "What? How?" I began, struggle twisting my mind, but no answers could quench the hope blooming in my heart. She's right. Jake's eyes glistened with tears, and I could hear the vulnerability thick in his voice. We need to find the truth within ourselves before it eats us alive. Celia, if we trust what we feel, we can shatter this. The woman extended her hand toward us, beckoning, and as she did, the shadows contorted as if sensing the shift in power. Something within me snapped in awakening. I could see it, tangible and real, a path toward redemption glistening in her aura, but before I could respond, a haunting wail echoed through the stillness, filling every corner of the factory. It reverberated like a siren, drowning out everything, striking ice into my very core. The darkness surged forward, and the little girl's figure flickered across the boundary between light and shadow, her wide eyes questioning, pleading, Celia. She called. Help me. In that moment, I realized with paralyzing clarity, the true battle was not simply with Rebecca's darkness but with the damning truths buried within our hearts. And if I didn't confront my past, if we didn't confront it together, the horrors of our choices would forever remain. I turned back to Jake, my breath caught in a whirlwind of fear and determination. We must face it all of it, I said, feeling the light push against the encroaching shadows, a moment of truth illuminating my path. We can save her. But a sudden rush of shadows enveloped us, and an unearthly roar resounded, drowning my words. Could we truly overcome not just Rebecca but the darkness within ourselves? Before I could answer, the ground beneath us trembled violently, and in an instant, we were ripped apart, dragged away from each other as the darkness spun faster, filling the room with a chilling, echoing laughter as I grasped for Jake's hand, only to find nothing but emptiness. His voice rang in my ears, Celia, just as silence descended, wrapping around me like chains. What had we unleashed? And did we have enough strength to face the truth, tethered to our shadows? The stillness that followed felt suffocating, like a shroud wrapping around my chest, squeezing the air from my lungs. I could barely process what had just happened, the jarring separation from Jake, the shadows pulling us apart like raging currents in an unforgiving sea. Celia. His voice echoed somewhere in the distance, a haunting call that sent waves of panic surging through me. I reached in the direction I thought he might be, but all I grasped was chilling emptiness, as if the universe had conspired to sever our connection. The shadows lunged towards me, relentless and insatiable. I could feel their cold fingers caressing my skin, feeding on the fear that bubbled within. I staggered backward, desperately searching for any glimpse of the golden woman, the beacon of hope who had briefly illuminated this wretched abyss. But she had vanished, as if the tendrils of darkness had swallowed her whole. Then, amidst the swirling shadows, I caught sight of the little girl, the one who had called out to me, her wide eyes brimming with unshed tears. I felt an inexplicable bond to her, a connection that ran deeper than the darkness surrounding us. Please, don't be afraid, I whispered, stepping cautiously towards her. I'm here to help you, help me. She echoed, her voice fragile and quaking like autumn leaves caught in a tempest. But I'm lost. They're hiding from me. Who are they? I asked, my heart pounding as the shadows loomed larger, surrounding us both. The darkness is everywhere, she explained, her voice softening to a murmur. It takes the things we love, the memories, the laughter, and turns them against us. She shivered, glancing over her shoulder as if she could sense the dark entities creeping closer. The shadows flickered at her words, and the fear swirling in my chest began to morph into an undeniable wave of empathy. I knelt down beside her, brushing the dirt from my knees as I attempted to meet her gaze. What can we do to break free from it? How can we save them? Her eyes widened, as if she were both surprised and comforted by the question. You need to remember the light, she said, her tone solemn yet full of conviction. It's there, even in the darkest moments. You must find it within yourself. That heartbeat, a flicker of understanding seeped through the cracks in my heart. The golden light, the warmth I had felt before, wasn't just an external force, it was part of my spirit, a fragment I had buried under layers of dread and resentment. Together, I said, the idea crystallizing into something tangible. We can uncover it. You and I. We clasped hands, our little fingers intertwined, and as I squeezed her palm, I felt a surge of energy, connection unbroken by fear or despair. What if we could use the memories? I reasoned, recalling how the shadows had twisted my own past against me. What if we could change them? Rewrite them? The girl nodded fervently, her spirit igniting with newfound hope. We have to face them. We must go through the memories, even if they hurt. That way we can rediscover the light. That I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what lay ahead. Okay, then let's do this. But together, I won't let you go. As we stepped forward, the shadows dreaded my conviction, they recoiled, momentarily losing their grip. The air was charged, thick with the unspoken possibility of redemption. Each memory we approached felt like a doorway, each filled with the ghosts of the past. I recognized fragments of laughter, carefree moments shared with friends, the warmth of my mother's embrace, and the joy of sunrise on our favorite beach, yet with each step, the warmth was met with frigid darkness, the shadows twisting those memories into grotesque forms. I could hear laughter morphed into mocking echoes, love congealed into bitterness. My own insecurities swelled like a rising tide, whispering, "You can't change what has already happened," but I clung to the girl's hand, and as we moved forward, I remembered the golden woman's words. Your roles need not be defined by the past but forged anew through understanding. I needed to own these moments, even the painful ones, to rewrite them in the light of our shared experience. Let's start here, I said, pointing towards one of the more vivid memories. It was my last family dinner before everything crumbled. My father's laughter ringing as he dished out pasta, my mother smiling with eyes of promise. The shadowy vortex surged violently, eager to drown out that memory, but I stood resolute. That we can flip the script, I whispered to the little girl. Let's remember the warmth, not the darkness. And as we stepped through the memory, the shadows shrieked in fury, swirling aggressively around us, fighting to snuff out our resolve. In that moment, I felt Jake's voice reaching out to me like an ethereal whisper. Celia, just remember we're together in this. But at that precise moment, silence fell over the labyrinth, and a presence I hadn't expected began to form in the shadows. A figure emerged, cloaked in an aura of malevolence, yet familiar. You think you can rewrite the past? The specter sneered, voice dripping with disdain. You think you can save what's already been condemned? I hesitated, uncertainty gnawing at the edges of my determination. You're wrong. We can do this. But as I battled the darkness, something deep within me questioned whether we could change that which we had lost. The figure took a step closer, drawing forth memories I had locked away, each one wrapped in raw emotion, the moments where I felt most broken. Face your reality, Celia, it taunted. The truth is more twisted than you dare admit. Panic surged once more, but I tightened my grip on the girl's hand. The shadows swirled, and the figure loomed closer, ready to unleash our darkest secrets. I could feel the tug of fear threatening to undo everything I'd fought for. Would the weight of the truth crush us, or would it be the force that allowed us the freedom to rise? Just as the shadows closed in, ready to engulf me completely, a shockwave of memories broke through the dark, the luminous warmth of love intertwined with loss, a collage of everything I had ever cared for. My heart pounded violently, a truth waiting to manifest in all its complex glory. The figure widened its eyes, and for a fleeting moment, even it seemed wary. You think you're ready? It hissed, doubt dancing through its tone. But what I felt eclipsed its violence, illuminated by the haunting promise of light and the promise to reclaim what had once been lost. That I and that single heartbeat, with the little girl by my side and fragments of brightness flaring up within me, I understood. The path ahead was fraught with shadows, yes, but ours was a journey not of condemnation but of courage, of uncovering the love buried within, even if it meant confronting everything that feared the light. Yet before I could bolt toward the future, toward Jake, back to the light, a piercing scream shattered the air, an anguished cry that cut through me like a knife, ripping apart what little strength I had amassed. Celia. The voice was all too familiar, reverberating from deep within the labyrinth of shadows, yet simultaneously sending chills down my spine. It was Jake, his call echoing through the void, resonating with pain and desperation. My heart sank, realizing the darkness was balancing its fragile hold, striving to isolate us. If I didn't act now, it would claim him, and I would lose not just my love, but the very essence of who I was meant to be. Hold on, Jake. I yelled, but my voice felt like a whisper against the tide of anguish threatening to drown us both. And I realized then that this was just the beginning. Cracks in our memories were widening, and we had not yet begun to unearth the truth that would shake us to our cores. With a fierce determination, I grasped the little girl's hand tighter. "We will face it together," I declared, ready to confront whatever awaited us. The wounds of the past were raw, but I believed that our light would pierce through, even as the shadows threatened to consume every flicker of hope. Together, the girl echoed, and we launched into the fray, heading into the darkness that both terrified and beckoned, hearts blazing with the flicker of what could still be. But as we stepped forward, ready to confront Jake's cry and battle the shadows, I couldn't shake the feeling that something deeper lay hidden in the folds of our memories, waiting to be uncovered and perhaps willing to turn the tides of our reckoning into something unrecognizable. The shadows twisted and reached out, clawing at us as I stepped forward, the echo of Jake's anguished call still ringing in my ears. Each footfall felt like a step deeper into the abyss, and the little girl's presence beside me was both a source of comfort and a jolt of reality. We were on the precipice of something monumental, and yet terror churned within me like a storm. "Celia," came Jake's voice again, longer this time, stretching out like an ethereal tether that threatened to pull me into the depths I fought so hard to transcend. My insides twisted with a cacophony of emotion: fear, love, regret, all amalgamated into a single driving force. I had to find him. Focus, I told myself, gritting my teeth against the rising tide of despair. I squeezed the little girl's hand. "We can do this. We will find the light." Ascending further into the shadows, the air around us grew thicker, stifling, heavy with memories I wasn't ready to face. Each flicker of pain was a reminder of the turmoil I had wrapped in layers of denial, but they also bore the warmth of love intertwined, waiting to remind me of its power, if only I dared to face them. "Look," the girl cried, her wide eyes glistening with an otherworldly gleam. "There's a memory." She pointed toward a shimmer in the darkness, an opportunity cloaked in uncertainty. As we approached, the edges of the memory gradually sharpened, revealing a scene emblazoned with joy: a summer afternoon at the beach. Jake and I were there, laughing under a blazing sun, our hands clasped together filled with bubbles of happiness. But as I peered closer, the laughter began to warp, turning discordant, reverberating ominously in the once harmonious air. The golden hues in the memory flickered, and darkness unfurled around us, clawing at the edges of that joyous moment. "Stay close," I whispered to the girl, determination igniting within me. "Celia." Jake's voice amplified, punctuated by the dawning realization that echoes of that perfect day were layered with grudges and blame. I gasped as the specter of the past unfurled its wings, revealing the arguments, the words left unsaid, and the unraveling fabric of our love that had frayed in real life. No. I protested, feeling the darkness swell, thundering back against my resolve. "We've come so far. We can't let this consume us." As if in reply, the shadows writhed and snickered, intertwining with the undertones of my memories. "You think you can reclaim what has been lost?" They scoffed, mocking the love Jake and I once shared, distorting it until it felt like a bitter aftertaste in my mouth. Heart pounding, I pulled the little girl closer and drew courage from her presence. "We can rewrite this," I declared defiantly. "Even if it hurts, we have to face it together." We confronted the memory head-on, weaving through the laughter and the shifting colors of the past. I could almost hear the sound of waves crashing against the shore, and for a moment, it felt as if I could reclaim all those joyful moments as though they were still mine to possess. But then came the matching jolt of pain, a future foreseen, a vision of Jake stricken with confusion. It was as if blades of regret pierced through our laughter, stripping away all the sweetness. "What have you done?" his visage demanded, in the way hurt flares into anger. "You've lost yourself in this darkness." The moment hung suspended before us, a crucible of doubt, and I felt myself sink further, pulled down by regret that churned violently within my chest. The girl beside me trembled, and I worried I could sense her weak flicker of hope dimming under the weight of anguish we witnessed together. "Remember the light," she whispered, as if she sensed my conflict, her words a reminder that stirred the embers of fortitude within. "Your memories can illuminate your future." I took a deep breath, forcing myself to view that moment not through the lens of loss, but as a canvasto dipped my hand into the vibrant color of love that had knitted us together so long ago. "Jake," I called, urging for compassion despite the anger encircling me. "Celia, do not let it deceive you." The shadows hissed, swirling into grotesque shapes that bared a sickening grin. "This memory is tainted, it can't be saved." But I stood resolute, anchoring myself to the golden tether of our combined existence. "No. It can be transformed." I thought of our shared moments, the laughter imprinted like stars against a dusky sky. I concentrated on the warmth of our hands intertwined, the light of Jake's eyes reflecting encouraged the bond we forged against all odds. I faced the shadows with defiance. "Our love is stronger than your darkness." As I shouted these final words, a ripple surged through the air. The memory began to shift, the shadows writhed violently, unsure whether to retreat or encircle us further. Each laugh, each promise began to swell anew, illuminating the dark fabric, stitching tenderness into the jagged seams of pain. Together, the little girl echoed beside me, and as we reached for the warmth, that light erupted between us, a radiant burst that sent the shadows tumbling backward, seizing moments we had once believed lost. Just then, a new cry echoed through the fabric of memory, a sound that struck with unsettling potency. "Celia!" It was Jake again, but this time the pain in his voice was interwoven with desperation, and I felt it ripple through me. "Celia, where are you?" he called, the darkness muting our connection. Something was happening, something that threatened to reverse all the progress we had made. "Jake!" My heart twisted, the memory pulsing like a living entity, eager to draw me back. The golden warmth began pouring from us, flooding the edges of reality, yet from that flood emerged a new threat that loomed heavier than the darkness before. "Celia, I need you now." His voice morphed into an anguished plea, cracking through the static of shadows, reverberating deep into my bones. In that instant, the shadows paused, a vicious stillness swirling around us, as if everything hung in delicate balance. Would I let my fear grip me, or would I dive into the unknown to save him? Jake was out there, tangled somewhere beneath the mire, and it was my choice, my heartbeat that would decide whether I would remain lost or forge ahead to uncover harsh truths that a flicker of determination ignited within me. "I won't abandon you," I declared fiercely, gripping the little girl's hand. "We're coming, Jake." And as I leaped toward that final cliff, the shadows trembled, warily slinking back, but it was the revelation of an inescapable truth that lingered behind them, refusing to relent. Because I sensed a shadow of a memory yawning behind, a glimpse of something lost and fragile, and I knew the final reckoning was yet to come. The weight of that declaration hung in the air, dense and electrifying. Each heartbeat resounded like a drum, echoing the urgency of my commitment. I had to reach Jake. This time, I would not drown in the shadows. With the little girl at my side, we charged toward the pulse of Jake's voice, letting it guide us through the thick fog that clung to our every step. The darkness wobbled around us, teetering on the verge of collapsing back into the abyss. But as I focused, willing every ounce of my heart toward Jake, I felt that radiant light thrive just beyond the shimmer of memories. Navigating through the distortions of past and pain, I stumbled upon another memory, this one cloaked in uncertainty and quietness, like a shallow breath before a storm. I squinted, trying to make sense of its haziness. It revealed Jake standing on the edge of a cliff, staring out into a swirling ocean that mirrored the turbulence in my own heart. "Celia!" he called, but there was no elation in his voice, only the tremor of desperation trapped within his echo. "You have to come back to me." Fearing I would lose him forever if I doubted, I tightened my grip on the girl's hand, summoning that enduring warmth within me. Her innocent face glowed softly, an anchor in this swirling tempest. "We can push through," I assured her, "but we must stay focused on the love we both know still exists." As we moved closer, Jake's figure faded and flickered like an old film struggling to play its story. I could sense the darkness clawing around him, a roiling storm that threatened to swallow him whole. "Celia, don't you see? It's suffocating me." He turned back to the cliff's edge, calling me over the constant crashing of the waves below. "You have to face it with me. It's the only way." Panic surged through me as the shadows writhed, striking at the edges of my resolve. What did he mean by face it? I wanted to reach out, but a fear gripped my throat tight, a fear that I might not be able to confront what haunted him. Jake. I'm here. My voice cracked. I poured my soul into the plea, desperate to convey my readiness to face any storm that loomed between us. You're not alone, the little girl's encouraging smile flickered as she stepped forward timidly, emboldening me. Together, we can be the light, she whispered softly. I nodded, and together we took another step toward navigating the unclear edges of the memory. Suddenly, the scene shifted violently, the cliff dissolving into a dark, swirling pool of water thick and murky like my own fears. Jake plunged into the depths, and I felt a crushing weight of despair wash over me. No! I screamed, panic seizing me as the darkness threatened to drag me down into that abyss with him. Don't give in, Jake. Fight it. You have to fight, but the water was deepening, reflecting our regrets, and the sound of his voice faded into the echoes. My insides twisted, and I felt the threads of love becoming frayed, stretched thin like a tightrope over an unfathomable void. Celia! He cried again, but this time, it was more muted, and I felt my connection with him wavering. The shadows laughed softly, a sound that sent icy tendrils of despair snaking through me. His love is but a flickering flame now. That I refuse to believe that. I shot back at them, my heart racing. I remembered the warmth of our shared laughter, the way his eyes lit up whenever he saw me, the way we had fought for each other against every odd life through our way. You cannot snuff it out. With resolve igniting in my soul, I stepped further into the memory, pushing against the weight of the darkness and the pull of despair. The little girl summoned her courage too, her eyes bright and shimmering like a lighthouse beacon shining through the storm. Remember what love feels like. She shouted, echoing my own heart's fervent belief. I closed my eyes, allowing all the memories we had built together to flood through me, joy, the sorrow, the moments when we had both stumbled but always brought each other back. It was a cascade of connection, churning away in that deep darkness, refusing to be extinguished. Jake. I shouted of all my might, letting every memory light a fire in my heart, each thread of love binding us together tighter. I'm coming for you. I will fight for you. As my voice reverberated, the water quivered, fracturing the darkness around it. I dove forward, determined to breach the surface. Suddenly, it broke apart, and I emerged into clearer air, my heart pounding frantically. In front of me, the swirling shadows split to reveal Jake's desperate figure, suspended just below the surface, eyes wide with a mixture of fear and haunting sorrow. Celia, please, he whispered, his plea echoing the depths of my own anguish. I reached down, feeling every scar between us, the apologies that had gone unspoken, the love that had been overlooked. That I won't let you drown, I cried, grasping for his hand, but shadows coiled around his wrists, binding him deeper. We can't let fear win. Just then, an unexpected pulse of warmth surged from the little girl, illuminating the darkness in vibrant hues. Glistening trails of light stretched toward Jake, unbinding the knots of shadows that clung to him. I poured my heart into that connection, hoping against hope that it would be enough. The darkness hissed and shrieked, a cacophony of despair rising around us as I pulled with all my might, heart racing while time stretched around us like taffy. Every moment felt elongated, suspended in a tension of uncertainty. Celia. Jake's voice sharpened, a note of urgency creeping into the mix. I couldn't pause to doubt, not now. The truth, it's more painful than the shadows. You have to remember. With that, the weight of realization struck me, unraveling remnants of mystery that had evaded my grasp. Etched within my heart was a truth so bitter that it could topple everything I held dear. Jake, what truth? I stammered, grappling with panic. What could possibly be worse than losing him? The shadows shrieked, writhing. You can't reveal it. It will break you both. They cautioned in a chilling harmony, but even as uncertainty churned within me, I felt Jake's eyes piercing into mine, desperate for understanding. Celia, find the courage, he urged, an unwavering plea against the shadows sneered at it. It was a moment steeped in heart-wrenching gravity, and as Jake's anguished expression called to me, contrasting against the encroaching darkness, I realized this was never just about battling the darkness surrounding us. It was about confronting the shadows lurking inside, and the inevitability that the truth would unveil itself, one way or another. With every ounce of courage I had left, I held on to Jake's gaze, filled with both terror and an undeniable flicker of love. "I'm ready," I announced, not fully understanding the weight of my own words. But as soon as those words reverberated around us, a resounding stillness followed, an ominous calm settling in as the shadows recoiled, whispering a vague foreboding. I wasn't sure what awaited me in the light or how I would ever be able to face whatever truth Jake held. And as that realization took root in my gut, one question lingered hauntingly, leaving a chilling echo in its wake. What if unearthing that truth would tear us apart instead of bringing us back together? The shadows parted as if they could sense the weight of my impending revelation. Time felt suspended, stretching into an eternity, and the air crackled with the anticipation of truth. I could see the flicker of fear in Jake's eyes, fear that mirrored my own. It was a haunting reflection, wading through the depths of uncertainty. "Celia," he breathed, the tremor in his voice cutting through me. "You have to remember everything. We've been running from it for too long. It's the only way to break free." That I clutched his hand tighter, my heartbeat echoing the frantic pulse of this moment. What if it breaks us? What if it's too late? I barely recognized my own voice, choked and fragile, rattling against the walls of my heart. But as the shadows danced around us, their laughter grew softer, almost contemplative, as though they were steeling themselves for what was to come. A small part of me wanted to retreat, to block out the truth and settle into blissful ignorance. Yet, deep down, the abundance of memories drawn from a shared past was a lighthouse amidst the tumult, a reminder that love thrived on honesty, however painful it might be. With a rare flicker of defiance swelling in my chest, I took a deep breath, centering myself against the weight of Jake's gaze, so filled with urgency and longing. "Tell me," I urged, my voice steadier. "Please, what do you need me to remember?" The shadows recoiled, momentarily silenced by the gravity of my demand. The air felt charged, electrifying. Jake's grip tightened around my fingers, and I could feel the warmth pulsing steadily from the little girl at my side, collecting strength from my resolve, anchoring me in this storm. Jake opened his mouth, but the sound that escaped was merely a sigh, laden with the bitterness of despair. "It's about that night," he began, his voice trembling like the fragile threads of hope weaving through this darkness. "The night everything changed." I braced myself, my heart racing as a rush of memories flooded back, the laughter, the warmth, the promise carved in our souls during those stolen moments. But then, an abrupt shift, a darkness that crowded in, the fear and regret that lingered like an unwelcome shadow. "I'm scared," he confessed, a profound ache crackling in the air between us. "I'm scared you will see me as I truly am." "No," I whispered, but the words felt feeble as their weight clung to my tongue, blocking my throat as if to keep me anchored in denial. "You're so much more than that. We can face this together." The whispers shifted as shadows sneered, recognizing the trembling foundation beneath our resolve. "Can love survive the truth? Can it bear the weight of memories too heavy to confront?" They taunted, and I shivered as their words wrapped around my heart, squeezing it painfully. "That I would have done anything to protect you from this," Jake continued, voice taut with strain. "I thought if I didn't tell you, we could keep living in the light. That we could forget the accident, everything that happened." That my breath hitched, memories unspooling in my mind like a broken reel. I remembered that night, the laughter that had filled the air turning cold and sharp as reality crashed around us. The accident? But no, Jake cut in, eyes wide with emotion. "It was just as much my fault as yours. All of it. I never wanted you to carry that burden. I didn't want the regret to redefine us, to poison our memories." The last syllable resonated deep within me, reverberating against the truth I had so desperately tried to evade. Regret. The weight of that word sank into my gut, pulling me down as memories flashed vividly forward, the sirens blaring, the flash of lights, the desperate cries in the night. That moment had left a fracture that we might never heal. "Jake, did you blame me for it?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper, but the shadows curled around the edges, eager for the pain to be laid bare. "I never blamed you," he shot back, heartbreak painting his features in hues of sorrow. But I couldn't bear to see the pain in your eyes whenever it came up, so I kept it from you. I thought it would protect you, protect us. I whispered, feeling the fracture between us widening with every admission. Is that why you started to pull away? Why you've been trapped in this darkness all along? I thought I was shielding you, Celia. I thought that if I buried it deep enough, we could weather anything. But I was wrong. His voice cracked, a raw reflection of the tempest raging inside. It was buried alive. And it has haunted me ever since. As his words hung heavily between us, the shadows surged momentarily, as though aware of the truth's potential to cut through their grip. You can't let her in, Jake, they hissed, their voices a frenzied chorus. This truth will fracture the delicate balance you fought to maintain, but it was too late. The truth had been laid bare between us, a canvas painted with dread and longing. Now, we stood on the precipice of understanding, the clarity of our emotions illuminating the murky waters around us. Jake's eyes searched mine, both pleading and terrified. Then the little girl reached out, wrapping her small fingers around our clasped hands. Together, she urged, her voice a gentle beacon amid the rising storm. You can overcome this together. Just as her warmth breached the encroaching cold, a new flicker of hope ignited within me. It doesn't have to tear us apart, Jake, I whispered, willing the shadows to recede. We can find a way to forgive, to heal if we face it together. But just as I leaned closer to deliver this promise, the shadows roared back, thrumming with indignation. Foolish hope, they spat, belief in love over truth. It will consume you both, and in that chaos, I felt the ground shifting beneath our feet, the tumultuous waves crashing in once more like a tide, rising to reclaim what it believed was owed. The little girl's light flickered momentarily beneath the press of the shadows, moments weaving in unpredictability, the essence of hope under threat. Celia. Remember. Jake's urgency cut through the noise, pulling me back, as I recognized the need to defy the darkness. But as I glanced back at his pleading expression, there was a sudden realization that crashed into me like the weight of 1,000 heartbreaks that I turned slowly, finally meeting his gaze with unyielding determination. The truth, it doesn't just hurt us, does it? It changes everything. But can we survive this? Can we still find the light in it? He hesitated, shadows curling ominously around him, and as hope took a breath, waiting to spiral upward, I sensed the fragility of truth's promise, teetering on a knife's edge. In the midst of this trembling balance, uncertainty grew thick around me, coaxing something darker still to rise, the truth behind the truth, cloaked in a storm that demanded to be faced. As whispers tangled and clawed around us, my heart raced with a new revelation. There might be more buried in those depths than either of us had ever suspected. And just before I could articulate that gaping chasm of uncertainty, the ground rumbled beneath us, a foreboding tremor, as I wondered if unearthing the truth would shape the storm or shatter the very foundation of everything we had fought to save. The tremor beneath our feet grew stronger, the shadows roiling like an untamed sea, and I could feel the raw energy of ancient secrets yearning to break free. Panic clawed at me, but it was laced with an unfamiliar urgency. I had never expected that the simple act of remembering could shatter the delicate construct of our lives. As the ground pulsed beneath us, Jake's eyes widened, the fear there more acute than ever, a shared terror threading through our connection. Celia, if the truth comes crashing down, what's left of us? He choked out, desperate that I couldn't shake the feeling that something beyond our own regrets loomed over us, something tied to that night we desperately sought to free ourselves from. Jake, what if there's more? I breathed, doubt creeping into my voice. What if that night is bigger than we can even imagine? What if no, he interrupted, shaking his head fiercely. You can't think like that. There's already so much. Listen, I urged, breaking into his turmoil, my own fear serving as a catalyst for clarity. We can't forget the accident. It's part of us. But what if there's something hidden beneath it? What if we're not just running from what happened, but also from the truth of who we are, and what we've lost? The little girl tightened her grip on our hands, her bright gaze glistening with innocence and understanding. You both are too scared, she whispered. But secrets don't win against love. Always choose light, her words settled in my chest like warm embers, igniting a flicker of determination. I wanted to believe that love could conquer fear, but the deeper I dug into my thoughts, the more turbulent the storm grew around us. The shadows jeered, sensing our vulnerability, and the air turned to ice, stinging my skin. The realization washed over me with dizzying force. It's not just about us, is it? It's about. I hesitated, glancing at Jake. The others. He looked at me, confusion clouding his features, and then the faint glimmer of recognition flickered in his gaze. You mean? I mean the people who were there that night. The ones we lost. What if there's more still left unsaid? What if we owe it to them to uncover every truth, not just for ourselves, but for the families we shattered? The trembling ground seemed to nod, acknowledging the monumental weight of my words. We need to confront everyone who witnessed that night. Their truths may help us make sense of our own. Jake's face paled, self-doubt washing over him like a deluge. What if they blame us after all this time? What if they can't forgive? What if we just run again? I shot back, my frustration bubbling to the surface, and I saw the flicker of old wounds ignited by my words. I'm tired of running, Jake. This darkness, it's consuming us, and if we don't face it together, we're going to drown. For a moment, the shadows stilled, struck by the fierceness of my plea. I breathed deeply, willing the storm inside to settle. We've faced the burden alone for too long. We've lost pieces of ourselves because of this fear, but we can't let it define us anymore. Jake's fingers unfurled from mine, hesitance snaking through him as though he were debating whether to take that first terrifying step forward. What if it breaks us? What if we don't survive it? The little girl squeezed my hand tighter, and I met her hopeful gaze, feeling buoyed by her belief in our ability to emerge from the shadows. Together, I repeated, channeling every ounce of hope I had left. We can't face this without each other. If we wade through this uncertainty side by side, it won't shatter us. Well, rise. He hesitated, his vulnerability laid bare before me. Then he nodded slowly, uncertainty melting into a sliver of trust. Where do we start? Something flickered within me, uncertainty and excitement weaving together. We start with the truth. We piece together the fragments of that night. Every perspective matters. As we stood there, the shadows surrounding us began to buckle under the weight of our resolve, but just as quickly, they surged forward. A voice, oily and oppressive, slipped through the fissures in the air. You think you can just walk away into the light? There are dangers lurking in the truth you seek. The past is not done with either of you. What do you know about it? I spat back, emboldened by the little girl's unwavering spirit at my side. It's our past, and we're going to take it back. With each step we took toward unearthing the truth, the ground shook violently again, as if recognizing the certainty of our intent. It sent tremors of doubt coursing through me, reminding me of the chaotic aftermath of the accident, the unfamiliar faces of those we collided with, their anger and anguish forever imprinted in my mind. Would they offer understanding, or our worst fears realized? And then, just as we took our first tentative step forward, a horrifying sound echoed through the air, a sharp crack, like a tree splitting in two. The ground buckled abruptly, sending a fissure racing through our feet, and in a heartbeat, the little girl was yanked from our grasp, her frightened laughter cutting short as she was swallowed by the shadows. No. I cried, reaching out, but the darkness enveloped her, pulling her deeper into the void. Jake's face contorted in panic, and for a moment, the world around us stopped, all the breath stolen by the sudden loss. We have to get her back. We can't let them take her. He shouted, his determination igniting amidst the chaos. With a jolt of fear and desperation, I gripped his hand tighter, willing him to fight alongside me. We weren't done yet. The truth still lay somewhere ahead, and I would find it for her, for us, for everyone we had lost. As we plunged into the darkness, hearts racing, the echoes of grief mingling with the flicker of hope, one thought burned beneath the chaos: we would not let fear conquer us this time. We had each other, and even as the shadows clawed at our heels, I believed we were finally ready to embrace whatever awaited us in the depths of our past. The darkness pulled at us like 1,000 hands, clawing through the memories we had tried to escape. Celia. Jake's voice cracked through the haze as we pushed deeper into the shadows, panic fueling our every step. We can't lose her. We've come too far. But even as my heart raced with fear, I felt something else, a smoldering determination bubbling under the surface. The little girl, with her innocence gleaming like a beacon, was our key to the light we so desperately sought. We will find her. I shouted, a promise forged from every desperate hope within me. Drawing on the warm embers of love and remembrance, I squeezed Jake's hand tighter. We can do this together. As we surged forward, the shadows raged, warping and thrashing around us. The laughter of the darkness echoed menacingly, yet I held on to the fragments of joy we had come to cherish, the smiles, the warmth, the echoes of what love truly meant. Those were our anchors. In the distance, amidst the chaos, I caught a fleeting glimmer, an ethereal light flickering like a trapped star, and a child's cry pierced through the shadows. Help me! It was the little girl, her voice threadbare yet filled with courage. Just hold on! I yelled, adrenaline coursing through me as we raced toward her cry. Each step felt heavy, as if the shadows were trying to drag us down with them, but I was relentless. I would not let fear win this time. That we have to remember, Jake said breathlessly beside me, his voice taut with urgency. Every painful memory, every slice of regret, it all matters now. The truth bore down on me like a weight, but there was a flicker of liberation within those shadows. The pain we had endured, the anguish we had buried, it was time to confront the very heart of it. You're right, I urged, eyes darting to the creeping darkness. We have to embrace it, Jake. We can't let our past bind us any longer. We must piece our pieces together. As if in response, the shadows recoiled momentarily, sensing a shift in our hearts. In that moment of exposure, we broke through one more barrier. The light grew brighter, illuminating the fissures in the darkness, and ahead of us stood the little girl, trapped in a cage made of shadows. Celia! She cried, eyes wide with fear. Please, you have to help me. And that cry ignited something deep within. We're coming! I shouted, hurling myself into the darkness, my heart now a roaring fire of fearless love. As we reached her, Jake and I fell to our knees, determined to break through the barriers separating us. Together, I murmured, and Jake nodded, our resolve shared. We reached out in unison, fingers stretching toward the little girl's trembling form. The shadows shrieked, thrashing against us with unrelenting fury, but we pressed onward. We are stronger than you! I yelled, channeling every ounce of my strength into those words. In that moment, time seemed to collapse, the cacophony fading around us. The girl looked into our eyes, and I saw in her gaze a spark and echo of our past and a promise of our future. You have to believe. She urged, voice rising above the din with a fierce strength. We grasped her hands, anchoring ourselves to one another. Let the truth guide us! Jake shouted, and it felt as if the very essence of love surged through us, a blazing current of warmth that set the shadows ablaze. The fabric of darkness unraveled, bursting with light, as vivid memories rushed forth, moments etched in laughter, joy, pain, and love filling the space with their powerful resonance. I could see clearly now all the moments we had cherished amid the storms, the kindness, the warmth of family, the laughter shared under the sun. But with those memories, the shadows blinked in shock, and truth surged forth, an unyielding wave of understanding. It wasn't just about the pain, it was about reclaiming the love that had birthed us. We forgive you, I whispered to the shadows. And we forgive ourselves. And just like that, the barriers crumbled altogether. The little girl, radiating light, burst from the shadows in a splendor of vibrance, wrapping her arms around us. A suffocating weight lifted as Jake squeezed my hand. The shadows screamed, a furious lament, before they fell away like ashes in the wind. That we stood there, panting but victorious, the storm of the past abating around us as the golden light enveloped us. The little girl beamed, her face glowing with joy. You did it! She exclaimed, twirling in the newfound light. But this isn't the end, I said, looking into Jake's eyes, feeling the heaviness of everything we had faced converging into this one moment. It's just the beginning. We've got to share what we've discovered. We owe it to ourselves and to those we lost. Jake nodded, understanding coursing between us, the shared burden lightened. We owe it to everyone affected that night. It'll free us all, he said. The world around us brightened further as hope seeped back into our hearts, scattering the last remnants of fear. And as I finally embraced Jake, I felt the fullness of my heart, the stark realization that love was more than just a refuge, it was a force that could heal, a bond that could withstand anything. And as we turned to leave, the horizon stretched out before us, filled with golden light and promise. In that moment, I finally understood, love, even when wrapped in shadows, has the power to redeem, to resurrect the lost, and to forge a new path. In the end, it was not merely the uncovering of our past that liberated us. It was the courage to embrace our truth, the laughter, the sorrow, and everything in between that truly set us free. Together, I breathed, feeling the warmth of love around us, ready to face whatever awaited us in the future. As we stepped into the dawn of a new day, I finally understood what it meant to be alive. And with a heart full of love, I knew I was ready for whatever came next. Because in that silence, the clarity emerged like a bright light, love pure, undeniable love was fierce enough to conquer anything. Together, I echoed. Always together. And in that final moment, the shadows fell away completely, the warmth of possibility and exhilarating rush, our hearts entwined as the world transformed into a canvas of hope in brilliant shades. I whispered to myself, the echo of our struggles becoming a soft promise, we would rise.